what did I do? Okay, something's recording and doing.
Oh, so that means you are going live now. We are going.
Go ahead and just introduce yourselves in the chat. We're trying to keep this as interactive as possible via the chat format. So please go ahead and introduce yourselves. We can use this as a little bit of a networking opportunity as well, and tell us a little bit about what you hope to get out of today's session. And also, if you haven't had a chance to yet, please just go ahead and download there's two. They're both to the same playbook. One was, we might have had a challenge in one of the browsers, so we put a link in both places for you. So go ahead and download the workbook. Hi, James. Okay, we'll get started in just a couple more minutes.
So let's wait for a few more minutes for people to start to come in. Hi, Avinash. We're just waiting a couple more minutes for more attendees to join us. Hi, Andy. Hi, Bernice. So while you're waiting, there's something in the chat that you could download the playbook. You can take the opportunity to tell us a bit about yourself and what business you are in. And if you're interested, or you could download the playbook too. Yeah.
sunlight here.
Yeah.
See what we can do about that. Welcome, everyone. For those who have just joined us, please go ahead and take a look at the chat. There's a playbook that we have downloaded that's available for you to download so that you don't need to be taking as many notes, and you can take your notes in there. There's also a couple of fillable worksheets in there that will be useful for you as we go through this and beyond. We do have the link for the playbook that was sent to all panelists and attendees. Are you able to receive that, everyone? Can we just hear from people to see if you have trouble getting the playbook, or are you able to get it? That's the link. Perfect. A few more people joining in. Hi, Andy. Welcome. Wow. Hey, started? How Clyde?
Shall we start? Okay. So it's already 8 minutes past 8, and I think we should start. So first, hello to everyone who have joined us, and welcome to tonight's webinar on the topic of pivoting your business for sustainability and success. I'm Hock Lai. I'm a volunteer at the Asian Institute of Mentoring, or AIM for short. And I want to welcome you to a series of our weekly webinar as part of our United Against COVID program, UNACOV, which cover crisis management for small businesses, career resilience, and personal well-being. And tonight is on the topic of crisis management for small business. Just a few housekeeping rules. This is a webinar, so you will be on listening mode only, and the webinar will be recorded and made available to you post the event. Q&A function is available. Please add your question there and also vote on the question by others. There's a chat function. Feel free to add any comment in the chat function. So question in the Q&A and comment in the chat function, or if you need any support. So I'm delighted today to introduce Ethne Martin, a leadership coach, who will be the chair for tonight and make the introduction of our speaker. So Ethne, over to you. I will go silent now.
Thank you very much, Hock Lai. Can you all hear me? Yes, great. Thank you very much. It's absolutely brilliant to be here, and thank you very much to AIM for organizing this entire series of events to make a difference to our community. I'm absolutely delighted to present Raksha Sukhia to you. Raksha is a business coach and a consultant, and I have personally benefited hugely from Raksha. And I also know a lot of people who have really multiplied their business by putting together or applying, even if it's a small part of what Raksha teaches, if we actually apply it, it makes a huge difference. So I've actually personally done the Ignite program with Raksha along with a few other people that I know. And I have to admit that I might have put into practice so far, maybe 20%, if that, yeah, of what Raksha had taught us. And I have seen my business multiply multiple folds already. And I'm looking forward to seeking Raksha's help slowly as I'm ready to implement more and more strategies. She's full of knowledge and wisdom, and more importantly, passion to really make a difference to people. So you're in great hands. She has a lot of interesting materials to deliver. I'll hand you over to Raksha. Thank you very much for being here today, Raksha.
Thank you so much, Avni, for that great introduction. Um, just a little bit here, so kind of think a little bit about me. So I don't love talking about me, so I put a little video together that makes it a lot easier to just give you a little bit of introduction and some context from where this material is coming from. So let me go ahead and share that with you. Thank you again, Hawk Life, for having me here today. And I'm really hoping that we can give you all some value that you can take away, and make myself available to you thereafter. So here's just a little quick video. I hope the sound works. Can you give me a little heads up if the sound's working?
Raksha Sukhia is a business growth strategist, a author and speaker. Raksha is a certified transformation and sales enablement coach with thousands of coaching hours guiding CEOs, senior executives, and their teams to performance breakthroughs. She pioneered one of the fastest growing innovation and knowledge management movements globally. She started 2 of her own businesses and works alongside business owners and CEOs to drive sales growth year on year. Raksha's run regional marketing teams for a multinational corporation across 9 countries. Raksha founded the BBR Network as part of her mission to redefine small business owners' growth and success stories. The BBR Network provides results-oriented business owners with the tools and resources they need to fast-track their growth and profitability. Results Network.
I find it easier just to share that than to talk about all these bullet points as well. But so that just gives you a little bit of a context. Honestly, I've been through the corporate world, and I've also been through the small business world. And one of the reasons that I do what I do is because I see that a lot of the strategies that work, I've run marketing departments, as it said, and I see that a lot of the strategies that work for larger businesses are simply things that we just can't do as small business owners. And then this world of COVID has hit us, and we're in this, everybody says to us that we have this long recovery curve that we've got to be able to face. We've all heard and read the news, and we're all business owners, so we know that, people talk about pivoting our marketing and pivoting our offerings. And I don't know about you, but sometimes when I read some of this stuff, it's sort of like, well, yeah, but how? And so when COVID hit, I started to as it said in the video, I have a community of small business owners that I lead and I nurture as best as I can. And I realized very, very quickly that a lot of the small business owners that I work with were going through this same challenge of, oh my gosh, this thing's hit our economy. All the economists are saying that it's going to be a long, slow recovery. We're seeing declining demand. We're seeing all of these things happening in the marketplace. But what exactly do we do? I mean, we've got people losing their jobs. We've got unemployment, kind of thing. And then we see this other thing that people say is that, in every crisis comes opportunity. And we all know that deep within ourselves. I think we all know that there are opportunities, but sometimes there's a lot of things that can get in the way. And it's about being strategic in our actions in terms of how we capitalize, and not just in the near term, but if we're recognizing that this crisis has changed the market overall and changed the mindset of consumers to a point that we try to hold on to the old, we're never going to be able to adapt and be ahead of the game as we move forward. And a big part of that, as we talk about, is kind of pivoting. And pivoting in this case is a variety of different things. It's pivoting our mindset and our marketing so that we can be in line with where our customers in the market is pivoting to. So really, and we've heard this before too, it's not the time to really slow down, it's the time to speed up. As I've worked, you out there, some of you have introduced yourself in the chat, but my understanding of who's on this call today is that some of us are small business owners, and we're kind of wondering, how do we protect our employees if we have them? How do we manage cash flow? How do we grow? How do we survive? How do we continue to support our customers? We might be small business owners in that early stage of growth where now this things hit us, and so all of our original growth plans have completely changed, and we're now at a point where we need to really be expanding to new markets, and opening up into new spaces in the market. We may be service-based, expertise-based practitioners. So by that I mean coaches, consultants, architects, anyone who has a level of expertise that they're selling to the market. So we're selling our own expertise, whether that be as a brand in a company or whether that be, so it's service-based businesses. And we might be trying to figure out how to continue to navigate this new normal, as they say, and build kind of an authority positioning for ourselves. And all of a sudden, where we were and the flow of clients that are coming in are no longer coming in the same way. We're seeing changes happen, and we need to figure out how to do that. Or we could be an employee, and either we've been let go or we fear that we might be in the next round of layoffs or whatever it might be, and we're worried. We're wondering, where is it that how can we make money? How can we survive? How can we stay afloat, whatever it might be? Or how do we thrive in this market space, kind of thing? Does that sound like, do all of you out there, can you just give me a, in the chat window, if you would, just give me a little kind of yes, no, if that's something you can relate to. Yes, we're hearing a few yeses. Anyone else? Great. Okay, well then you're in the right place. Good to know. Great. So, as I said, when we pivot, the first thing we need to do when we change anything, and you heard in the video, part of where the underlying work that I do is around mindset shift. It's around, I'm a transformation coach, and I've worked with many organizations in shifting mindsets. And as business owners, this is really important for us, because what we're looking at here is our mindset. We're looking to our actions really are determined by how we see the world and how we see the world around us. So I am going to ask you all to take a minute and to take a look and to see, where is it that you're at today, right? How are you viewing things? What's the world really like around you? What are you thinking? What are you worried about? Because the results that you get as you move forward and as you take on any strategies are 100% dependent on that mindset. So take a minute. Are you frozen by fear? Are you worried? Are you one of those people who are not worried and know you'll be okay? What's your worst case scenario? Are you making knee-jerk reactions? What's your money mindset right now? Take a moment. You don't have to type it into the chat, but if you want to, please feel free to share. But just take a minute to jot down for yourself where you are currently. Because that's yes, transitionary. Okay. Yes. Yes. So we see all kinds of different things and different situations. And I think the first thing to know is that if you want to get, yes, the unknown, it can be a space we can be really, really, really afraid of. And sometimes that can lead us to a place because when it drives our actions. So if we're in a place of fear, sometimes if we know it, that's the best place to start, right? Because you're not going to get anywhere if you don't know where you are. Yes, unsupported and alone is another hard one, particularly for those of us who are sort of small solo or small business owners that are kind of leading the charge with our businesses. It can be really hard to be on your own, not exactly know where to navigate. And the first thing is to recognize it. Because once you recognize it, then you understand that's the place that you're operating from. Right? So as we proceed, because I'm looking to be able to help you folks get some value and to create something out of what we do today, I really wanted you to kind of just recognize that this is the place that we're starting from, and that's okay. Okay? Because when you get where you are and you're okay with it and you understand what your worst case scenario could be and you just be okay with that, then you can put yourself in a position of power. So I'm just going to give you guys a moment with that before we move forward. So we've seen, and as I said, as COVID hit, one of the things I started to do was I started to look at how was this impacting my community, which is small business owners. So for those of you who are feeling unsupported, join us. There's a group of business owners that are out there to support one another through this period and beyond. So it's the Build Business Results Network community, and you're more than welcome to join us. So the first thing is to sort of get where you are and get what's happening in the environment. And what I did early on in the COVID world to support the business owners that I support, some of them I work with one-on-one, and some of them I work with in different formats and different settings, is to really kind of get into a position where they're positioning themselves not only to survive the early stages of the downturn, so the term we're all familiar with is circuit breaker, but really those stages where businesses are really looking at where in their cash flow they can make the right kinds of changes and cuts without cutting their business off completely, and some short-term strategies for generating immediate revenue and just positioning ourselves for a downturn. And if anyone is interested, just drop us a note and we can send you a copy of a 90-minute session that covers some of those things, including managing cash flow and some of the immediate revenue parts. I've picked up some of those pieces for today that as they're relevant. Then as we move forward, we're looking at positioning ourselves. So, this is about getting ready for capitalizing as the market turns around and capitalizing on our business. And there's some areas in there that to take a look at. I'm touching again on some of those key areas today as well. And then there's the pivoting our marketing for the long term, which is where we're going to be spending most of our time today. In fact, most of what we're going to be spending our time focused on is on looking at how can we leverage direct response inbound marketing to be able to build a long-term pipeline for our businesses. And a big part of that is doing that within the context of this environment. Does that sound good to you guys? Great. Great, 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 great. Okay, so one of the things I've seen a lot is that in that knee-jerk space that companies are, they cut costs. And when they cut costs, they often slash marketing. And that is a mistake. And the reason for that is marketing, if you're doing it right and you're doing the right kinds of things, can really, really, really help you to reduce the depth that the downturn is taking on your business. So some of the activities we talk about, sort of cash flow and these kinds of things in terms of management, but also marketing. If you're doing it strategically, that doesn't mean don't shift your marketing. It means don't stop it. Okay. It can also shorten the duration that the downturn takes on your business. So it's the gap that's here, as well as the depth of that gap in this diagram here. I don't know why my mouse seems to not be, my pointer's not going there. Where is it? Anyway, you see what I'm talking about there. In terms of marketing, though, I mean, if we look at the 4 Ps of marketing, which is a very traditional kind of marketing model, product, price, promotion, and place, the impact that COVID's had on that marketplace is really, it has taken a big toll on how we go about doing our marketing. So products, for instance, they may no longer be significant. And this is something that if we're hanging on and if we're in a mindset of things will come back to normal or the way they were, we may be doing ourselves a big disservice. Price. Now, obviously, right now we're in a market where we've got we've got a reduced demand curve in the market space, and consumers are understandably exercising caution in their spending. I don't know about you, but we're all kind of doing it. We're all kind of looking out for the long term. So pricing strategies is something that you want to take a look at in terms of how you're pricing your business is one thing. And it sounds kind of weird to be saying this, but at the same time, we might want to think about, I should say, increasing prices. It is a strategy, and it is a strategy that is often used to be able to increase revenue in a short period of time. Because if your demand is going down a certain amount, it may be countered by an increased revenue in terms of per consumer, or however you price your business, your services or business. Sounds like we have a lot of service-based practitioners on this call, so I might gear the conversation a little bit more that way. Promotion, again, what have we been doing to market our services? Those of us who have relied on networking and building a network around us in the local market spaces, we've had that cut off. And so a lot of businesses are turning online. It is a key strategy, and that's where most of our focus is going to be today. But it's, where are you promoting to? Are you still promoting to the right people? Does your product still have significance, or is there a need to change the messaging that you need to be thinking about when you go to this? So understanding where our consumers are right now in this market space is absolutely key. And I can't say that hard enough. In the Ignite program, we spend almost an entire couple of hours on this alone, right? Really kind of getting deep into where our consumers' mindsets are. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the presentation. Some of the points these are things that people do fairly quickly as a downturn happens, is to kind of look at their businesses and think about ways that they might be able to generate immediate revenue. And some of that is about building cash reserves in the business, but some of that is also about being able to quickly capitalize on low-hanging fruit and quick opportunities. Whilst not being a vulture, we do want to be creative about getting new business in early on in a downturn, and now we're kind of moving on to be able to also generate that longer term pipeline. And some of that is about being creative, but also about giving value. So, for example, just in my own context, I realized that my business is primarily supporting small businesses, and small business owners are all in that space where they're looking to cut costs. And so what I did was I started to put out a lot of resources for my community in terms of building resilience, to really kind of support and give value during these times, so that knowing that, kind of if people can count on that value, that they'll become longer term customers and they'll become loyal to my brand. Brand positioning is important, and doubling down on kind of your specific unique value, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes, is really going to be important, as is kind of exploring new markets. And this is, again, going to sound a little bit odd, but This is the time to be ahead of your competitors, and this is the opportunity where you might be seeing things where your competitors are not acting as quickly, or they're not acting as swiftly into new markets, or even into their own markets with the new messaging. And it is an opportunity to be able to take market share away from competitors. So that's something for you to think about in terms of what your competitors are doing and keeping an eye on that. But what we're really trying to do here is we're really trying to kind of refocus. So as I said, with the marketing, don't stop it, but refocus it onto your minimal, what we call a minimal viable market, which is that one audience segment that you must reach. And then to also think about it in terms of your minimal viable marketing, where in the past you may have had a very diverse marketing plan in terms of multiple medium and multiple things. You may be now focusing just on the most cost effective, or the marketing channels that give you the most ROI. And these days it is online marketing. Leveraging inbound lead generation systems to be able to create and generate a pipeline for the future. And I'm going to show you how to do that and go online and virtualize. And there's no choice these days. I mean, we're here today. We might have been doing this in a networking meeting all in one room, but these days we're just not in that position. So one of the things that so this whole online virtualized thing, we've seen a lot of it already. So I don't know if you've all seen what kind of examples you've seen around you, but just in terms of the market space, we've seen companies like I saw one clothing company start offering something called day jamas, right? So that was quick to market, responding to, it was a pajama-based clothing company, and they started offering day jamas. Nordstrom's, for instance, started offering a way that you could do shopping, that in-store experience. So they offered something called the Trunk Club. The Trunk Club. We've got a question here in terms of what's needed to do marketing right and within the determined budget. And I'm going to defer that question and talk about it a little bit later in this deck. We're getting to that point. So we'll get there. I've even seen people, so I mean, we're seeing in the medical space, for instance, the virtual health sessions, but I've even seen hairstylists offer virtual haircutting lessons, photographers offering, teaching you how to do your own photo shoot on an iPhone through your own home, but giving you the full support to be able to do that. We've seen a variety of different things. We've seen it in the online dating space. We've seen coaches and consultants taking to Zoom. We've seen speakers, a lot of people taking to Zoom or various kinds of online meetings. There's a variety of different ways that you could be virtualizing your products in detail. And so this is one thing that we've already seen a lot happening in the market space as we respond. In fact, even in the last recession that we had, they say that marketers, and this is from the Harvard Business Review, spent 14% more during the recession and in online advertising than they did in the period prior to that, in terms of getting to their market. So virtualization, looking at these kinds of online methods is really, really important. And anyone who wants to talk a little bit more about that, I can make myself available to talk, and I'll show you how to do that at the end of this meeting. So even before COVID, right, there were some challenges in the market space. There's a gentleman by the name of Dan Kennedy who unfortunately has passed away, but he's long considered a founder in the space of direct magnetic marketing, or this direct inbound lead marketing space. And what he shares is that the financial reality around most small businesses in general, most professions and sales teams as well, is that 60% struggle endlessly. We do have that small percentage at the top, that 1% that do create tremendous wealth, and that's what we're all in this game for, right? We have a smaller percentage, about 4% who do very, very well, and we have about 15% of the market that earns a good living. We have, and this is seen time and time again, these statistics are published all over the place. 1 in 5 small businesses fail, 20% of them fail, and 60% struggle endlessly, right? struggle endlessly. So what we need to do, and so what the problem here that's happening is that we are we're marketing to the wrong people. There's a question in the chat. I will get to that question in just a couple of minutes as well. What's happening is that we're marketing to the wrong people. We're saying the wrong things. We're not asking them to do the right things. Sometimes we're asking them to do the wrong things. We're thinking that we can advertise anywhere and bring in clients, and we're thinking that we have the budget to be able to do it. But the reality is that we don't. I mean, we're all on tight budgets, and online advertising can be quite expensive, especially if you're marketing to the wrong people and you're saying the wrong things because you're simply just not getting the conversions that you want. And then a lot of people just don't have the right follow-up system, and they end up chasing clients. They end up competing with competitors on price, and the real reason for that is they don't really have a marketing system. Make sense? This is what it kind of looks like, guys. I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to come back to those questions in a couple of minutes. What we see is that a lot of businesses end up doing some of what I described, which is a non-ideal prospect generation mechanism. However they're doing it, it's not ideal. Therefore, as I just said, we're seeing a weak conversion to clients. We're seeing an inability to generate results in the near term, mainly because we're pulling ourselves in many different directions. We get into that knee-jerk space. We're not able to deliver the results to the clients, and we're not getting as many clients as we want, and we're not converting at the same rate. So we have to do more business development, and we end up not retaining our customers. Well, what we're really looking for is we want to get the right customers. We want to convert them to clients. We want to deliver them great value. I mean, after all, that's why we're all here. We want to deliver value, right? We want to develop our raving fans, and we want that cycle to continue. So the question is, and a couple of people are asking, sort of with as many possibilities as there are, to identify the unique services that one has. And I'll get into that a little bit in a couple of minutes. And then what to do with the right marketing budget. That's another thing that as you start to pivot and focus on that minimal viable market, then that's where you're going to be able to start getting to that. And we'll get into that a little bit. Here's what I realized, though, is that what it takes to do that, to build a marketing system, it really sort of requires a variety of different types of skills, right? So it can have benefit. I'm also a licensed sales coach, as you heard in the beginning. And one of the things I was realizing is that a lot of us and a lot of salespeople out there, a lot of the sales teams that I were coaching were, found the whole concept of cold calling or prospecting quite burdensome. And this is how I got into this space, is because I started to explore how can I help my sales teams and the sales teams that I'm working with to be able to bring in more prospects and leverage the internet to be able to do that. And what that led to was, sort of a huge learning curve, because it does absolutely leverage multiple disciplines: sales, technology, marketing. These days we have SEO, we have a variety of different techniques that need to be applied to be able to drive and build the system that's going to help us bring in a regular pipeline of clients. And I'll show you what that looks like in a couple of minutes. So it can be a long learning curve. And the thing is that there's just not enough there. I mean, there's a lot of material about SEO. There's a lot of material about sales enablement. There's a lot of material about that. But how do we bring it all together? And what I was realizing is that there's no real easy place out there for people to get a method that's going to be able to cut across all of these disciplines and turn it into something that's quite actionable for people. And so that's why I built Ignite. And that Avni talked about earlier, and I'll tell you a little bit more about at the end of this presentation. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? Yes. Great. Great. Okay. So here's the key thing to building a pipeline, right? When we're building a pipeline, what we're doing is we're really building future buyers, right? And what we're trying to do is to bring in future buyers that are the right types of buyers for our business. But here's the reality, right? Not everyone's going to buy, right? And when we do marketing, so I look at a lot of different websites, and people bring me their websites to be able to convert them into inbound lead generating sites. And what we see is a lot of people offering their phone number or this call us right now. But the reality of it is only about 3 to 5% of people, depending on the market, depending on the type of marketing that we're doing, are what we call now buyers. So an example of that might be if you have a plumbing leak or if a pipe bursts in your house and you need a plumber that's available 24 hours a day, it's the middle of the night and you need that plumber, you might go in and look up the plumbers in close to you that are open right now, and you might pick up the phone and call them, right? That's kind of a bit of an emergency buy or an urgent buy, but in that case, you're a now buyer. You're ready to buy that service right now, right? If your tooth is, you're going to call the dentist, right? And you're not going to wait, right? But for most of our products and services, that's not the case. In some cases, our buyers don't even know they need the product. They don't even know they have the need. Particularly in the case of consulting, right? A lot of people don't recognize that they have the problem that they have that you fix. Does that resonate with anyone? Please feel free to just keep chatting in the chat. I'm watching that closely as well, just to make sure that I'm kind of on page with this. Great, great. So a smaller percentage, 6 to 7%, might be open to buying. Some of them might not even be thinking about it, as I said. Some of them know they're not interested, and a small percentage, 30%, know they're not interested. This is sort of just a generic type of breakdown as to how buyers go. So what we're really trying to do, if we're going to build a marketing system, is that we're trying to attract people into our business that are those future buyers, and we want to take them down what we call a buyer's journey, and you may have heard that. Again, there's a lot of different digital marketing type words and marketing words that are out there. The threshold resistance is one way this is looked at when you look at the psychographics of a buyer and how they move through a journey or buyer's journey. I tend to refer to it as a buyer's journey. But the key thing is what we're doing is we're taking them through that stage of awareness to consideration to analysis to purchase and then on to loyalty, right? So that's what we're really trying to do with our buyers, okay? So the thing is, how do we do that? And one of the things I promised to do is to give you an easy way to do this. And I realize that for most of us, we don't need complicated funnels, right? It's simply attracting the buyers to that one core market set that you want to reach and bringing them in and sharing something of value with them and helping them to understand the need to be able to get through the process. So this is what we build in the Ignite process, okay? What we do is we look at who our buyer sets are and how we're going to be attracting those buyers. Some part of that is providing what we call a compelling offer. And when we provide a compelling offer, that's something that our buyers can't resist to some extent. That's what we're hoping for anyway. And very often that's done through what we call a lead magnet. And we've all seen them out there, or a squeeze page or a tripwire. There's a variety of different words that can be used for this. But really what we're doing here is we're attracting the right people with something that is of value to them and related to our product. And we're doing an exchange with them. We're saying, I'm giving you this value and you're giving me your email address. And we've all seen this. We've all seen this all over the internet. Everywhere we go, we give our email address and we get something, right? And if we're interested, we will give it, right? Again, only 3% of those people, 3 to 5%, will actually buy. So once we do that, you get taken to an offer. And if the offer is compelling and it's something that we need right now, and we're one of those 3%, we might buy it right now. But The rest of us might need a little bit more information. Okay. And the way that we do that is through what we call a drip campaign. Again, this is basically email automation. And what we do is we design a campaign that takes people, once we know our buyers really well, which is really important, then we understand what their psychographics are, where they're at in terms of the awareness, interest, decision, action phases, and what's going to drive them through that process, and the information that they need to know in that process. And so then we nurture them through a series of emails or communications that will get them to that point and help educate them about why they need to buy. Our hope is that at some point they will buy and they become what we call the now buyers. And then the next challenge is to convert them. So this is where, you know, we can be sending them to new products, to add-on offers, and various techniques can be happening with upselling, downselling, bundling offers to be able to maximize our revenue in that perspective. Does this make sense? Step one is sort of to bring in the clients. Step two is to nurture them and sell to them, or nurture them through a campaign, and then to continue on from there. With me so far? Great. Okay, so here is the key, okay? The first thing we need to do is we need to understand the market challenges and it's particularly how they've changed in this market space, right? We want to make sure we adapt what we call our market dominating positioning to that current need. So we're not going to have the time too much, but I'm giving you a worksheet on market dominating positioning. But for now, I want you to think about it this way, right? All consumers have a problem that they don't want. Okay, and they have a result that they want but they don't have, right? So when you speak to that, that is where the beginnings of your unique positioning comes in. And that's why it's really, really important for you to understand where your consumers are and to understand how your product fits in and fits into that space. It's what we call an innovation gap, right? Then we want to create a compelling offer, right? So what we want to do is we want to create something that appeals to to that need that buyer has. However it's shifted in this market space, what we're looking for is fulfilling that need in a compelling way. And there's ways to structure this, and we've seen it all over the internet. It's not rocket science, but we want to be speaking to our buyers. Okay, and the way we present that is through a sales funnel, right? Then we want to build our list. And this is where we're building by using these attraction factors, what we call magnetic marketing. But it's really attracting people to us and our brand. Great. Yes. So so we're seeing some comments here in terms of changing and adapting the traditional sales funnel to, you know, sort of what we're calling COVID specific environment or sales, right? And not competing on price. And a big part of that is the positioning, right? So when I say compelling offer, I mean compelling in this market space. And so this is why those of us who take the opportunity right now to really look at our existing offer, look at our market positioning and pivot it or move it towards the way the needs have changed, that's what buyers will resonate with. Right. Apply, there's a result that they have, and I usually repeat that. So I actually am going to repeat that just in line with what's happening in the chat. There's always a problem that they have that they don't want, right? And there's a result that they want but they don't have. You must be sitting, your compelling offer must be sitting in the middle of that, right? To be able to be resonating with the clients, right? Kind of thing. So I'll get into that a little bit more as well. Wrong way. Okay. So just to recap again, When we build a sales funnel, it's around traffic, right? So the first thing we do is we figure out where our traffic is. This is something that we don't cover as much. We cover very at a higher level with the Ignite program, but we do look at traffic. So there's different types of traffic that we have, organic or paid, and that's really going to depend on who your buyers are. So understanding who is your market at a deeper level and where they are right now, right? Probably online, but where online? And what are they talking about? Where are they interacting? What kinds of pains are they feeling right now that they're addressing? Because that's where you need to meet them, right? We generate leads, as I showed you in the process through that thing, and we're going to go into it and we're going to create something for ourselves today. We nurture the leads and we bring them into sales. That's the process that we want to keep ongoing so that we're continually adding future buyers into our pipeline and converting them into now buyers, right? Here's an easy way to do this, right? So one of the things that we're talking about is attracting the right kinds of audiences, adapting the sales funnels to our market in this environment. And this is where sort of the principles of magnetic marketing can really make a difference, right? So the first thing is really kind of understanding your market. And we don't have time to go deep into this today, but you all know who your market is, right? Right? The key thing then is your messaging. And again, this is where your market dominating positioning, or that bit, as you're talking about, right, defining that process is going to really make a difference, right? So it's about being in that space. Your messaging has got to fit that gap. And so these two things need to be able to resonate. And then the medium, and in this case, we're focusing right now on just building the right kinds of sales funnels for our business. So let's just have a little bit of fun when we're looking at market, okay? Imagine you're opening a hamburger stand on the beach, right? What do you need most to succeed? Just put some answers in the chat. Secret sauce. Anyone else? You're opening a hamburger stand. What do you need? Interested buyers who will buy and eat hamburgers. Yes, customers. That's right. Right? What we really need is a starving crowd, right? We need hungry people. Yes. Yes, that's right. So that's the thing with regards to market. Okay. You need to be able to think about this creatively to some extent, right? One of the ways to kind of look and see who your market is to take a look at your existing current customer base, right? Once you've looked, what are they doing? What has changed? Where are the interests? What's happening with your current customers? Is there any commonalities with regards to them? What is your competitors doing? Are they marketing to a different group of people? Is there a niche that they're overlooking that you could be marketing into? So this is something that you might want to think about, right? Your own product and service might need to be adapted. And it's particularly if you're a service-based practitioner, that doesn't mean you're changing your business. It means you're changing a lot of what you're doing to meet the market space. So for instance, Ignite is a process that is built to be able to help people to generate and create their first sales funnels, and to be able to do it in a sort of on their own, but with support. So it takes them through the stages of doing it. Now, I relaunched Ignite again this year in 2020 because I realized that particularly in this COVID market space, it was becoming even more relevant for people to have the need to be able to do that. And given the environment and given the virtual environment, we adapted it to change it to become a program that people could do over a period of 8 weeks and to be able to do it online. kind of thing. Your business may have different kinds of areas where you might be adapting, like Dayjamas, for instance. It's the same product clothing company, and they're still selling clothing. They just remarketed it in a way that meets the current market situation, right? And then we've got the basics of demographics. So we all know age, location, gender, income level. These are the kinds of basic things that we do to target our market. But you also want to think about the psychographics, right? And sometimes the psychographics can be more important than the demographics. So it's really about getting into the mindsets of your customers. And they can be anywhere. So you want to think about your, and I'll get more into the mindset part of it in a minute, but your customers could be anywhere. You could be thinking about them like a culture. Depending on your business and what you're doing, you may be able to define them based as personalities, attitudes, opinion sets, fan bases, who else are they following, various other kinds of ways that you can slice and dice your audience. But you want to take the time to actually do it. You want to take the time to get clear on this, because this is going to be key to your targeting, and it's also going to be very, very key to your messaging. So the first step in doing that is to really craft out a marketing response that will create trust, right? In this environment, that's really, really, really important. And in order to be able to do that, we need to understand where our customers have gone, right? One way to think about that is to think about their money mindsets, right? So where are your customers in terms of spending, right? Particularly for your product, right? Are they the kind of customers that are now in that tight slam on the brakes type mode, as mine were? Were they, some, were in that pained but patient stage. Some were, in that comfortably well-off stage, kind of thing. And some, it's really just had no impact, How are they viewing your product, right? Is it an essential? Or is it postponable? Or is it expendable? In which case, you really need to look at what you're, doing, making some shifts, right? So how are your customers looking at it? Because this could change the way that you approach it and the messaging that you're going about with regards to it. Okay, so I want to give everyone just a couple of minutes to do this. Again, this may seem like a very high level exercise, but I wanted to, we have a short period of time, so I want everyone to be able to just take a couple of minutes to kind of look at kind of categorizing their benefit to their business, to their customers. So when you're making an impact on your customers, they say there's 3 primary domains, and I know that some of you may feel like your products don't fit into this domain, and if that's the case, please bear with me, because usually your products will fit into some overlap of these domains, with all of them. But if you could just take a couple of minutes and share in the chat, what is the closest primary or secondary area of impact that your business has? The thought process here is what matters. So I'm giving you guys a few minutes here just to kind of write down and talk and chat into your chat. Where are you impacting your customers? Yeah, so what would be primary? Wealth and secondary relationships. Got it. Health and relationships. Great. Yes. Yeah. One of the reasons this is important is because, I'll just give you folks a couple of minutes. Right. Yes. Okay. One of the reasons this is really important here is that we want to, when we start to think about it this way in terms of the impact that we're making on the customers, and sometimes it's hard to choose a domain. Avni, you turned around and said all three. And that's true for most of us, right? Because health, wealth, and relationships are all interrelated. I mean, we're human beings after all, and all of those things make a difference. Like your wealth makes a difference to potentially your health and your relationships, and vice versa if you're, kind of thing. And if we can be improving all of that, we're, in great shape. But when we start to think about this in terms of the primary and secondary areas of impact, that's where we're starting to hone in on our messaging, right? So those of you who say your primary impact is relationships and then health and wealth, right? Or health and then perhaps relationships, right? Kind of thing. That's where you need to be focusing your messaging, right? If your customers are viewing it this way and you're making an impact in that way, then that's where you need to be focusing your messaging. The risk here is to, not that, and your primary messaging, and then your secondary messaging may emphasize the other benefits as well. But this is important for you to be able to just kind of think it through in terms of the key messaging for your clients. And it's a fun little webinar exercise that gets people interacting, which is a thing that I like to do to be able to make sure that everyone hasn't just run away from me. So the next thing with regards to messaging here is that so the next thing that we want to talk about in terms of messaging is what I talked about earlier, your market dominating positioning, right? And this worksheet is in your workbook, so please go ahead and try and spend some time looking at this, because this is really important. And if anybody wants to talk this through separately, I'm more than happy to do a quick session and work through this a little bit with people, because it's key, right? Your innovation positioning, which is the grounding for your marketing, is really relevant to your target market, and how you're differentiating yourself from your competitors, and what you're doing to be able to make yourself truly unique in the market space in terms of your marketing messaging. Let's do another quick fun exercise, okay? If you are in a superhero, so if your business or brand, okay, if you're a small business, there's a few small business owners out here. If your small business was the superhero, so now you know what categories you impact people, right? If you were to characterize your business and your character yourself, if you're a solopreneur and trying to do that, what would be, and don't feel like you have to do this in one line or two exactly, but what would be your superhero character or name, or the thing that you do, right? Do you fight crime, right? Samantha, the workbook link is up there. Would someone from the BBR team please just repost the workbook links into the chat? I'm going to just be quiet for a couple of minutes and give you all a few minutes to come up with this. I'd love to hear what you have in your in the chat. So if you could just go ahead and do that and put your superpower tagline for your brand or you into the chat, I'd really appreciate that. I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to do that. Any superhero characters here? Nobody wants to share their superhero? Oh, I love that. Connector man. The power of building collaborative relationships to increase mutual wealth. Aladdin's magic lamp genie, or wow, that's great. So does this communicate what you do? Iron Man, all the superpower can be built. Great. The reason I do this exercise is because it's important for us to be able to communicate what we do and how we do it and in a very short, succinct way. And we go into this in the program in a lot more detail in terms of being able to kind of build out some particular elevator pitches. And I also run a workshop called called Get Your Pitch On, that takes people through the process of being able to define what they do in a way that resonates with their audience. But this is something that is a fun little exercise that kind of gets us thinking and our juices flowing in this way, which is really important for us in terms of thinking about how we are communicating, where we're delivering that value to our particular clientele. And so that's kind of wanted to give anyone. Are there anyone else want to share something here, or should we move on? Great. So the key thing here with messaging is clarifying it. I mean, the honest truth is, you know, I don't know about you, but I'm assuming you're a bit like every other consumer in the market space, and you're probably getting about 3,000 marketing messages a day. I was on a call with some brand specialists that are actually saying that now these days it's more like 5,000 to 7,000 marketing messages, given the COVID situation and everybody needing to go online. You know, everybody's getting to that point where they're zoomed out and they, you know, kind of in that position where they've just got too much going on, too much online kind of thing. And so it's what's really, really important here as you folks look at your business and how you're communicating in your funnels, because we've had some conversations and some questions around conversion. And what we really want to do is we want to take a look, and we need to think about the human brain, right? Our consumers are getting all these messages every way, and we need to get through that noise, right? And so we need to help them to be able to make sense out of what it is that we do, and we need to do it quickly, and we need to do it succinctly. Right? Because there's this test, right? If you were a prehistoric cave person looking at your website, and I cannot tell you how many websites I've looked at that just don't do this. I mean, they look really pretty and they've got all the bells and whistles and the animations and all of those sorts of things, but they don't pass what we call the grunt test, which is if someone just looked at it, could they really quickly tell, what is it that you're offering? How will it make my life better? And why do I need to buy it? Right? And we need to help in our messaging to be able to help our consumers make sense out of what it is that we're offering. And very often we don't do such a good job of that because we're stuck in our own space and we're thinking about it from our perspective. So, sort of a simple example is like when we sort of go out to people and we say, you know, this is what I offer, right? Now, unfortunately, that's not necessarily speaking into a need. And because of the way that we talk about our offers, I mean, I hear this, I call it consultant speak, and I call it academic speak or whatever it might be. We're always offering things from our perspective. And what we need to be doing is we need to be shifting that to be really looking at it from the consumer's perspective. What is it that you're offering? And how will it make their life better? How will it impact them in their primary domain and then their secondary domain? And then whatever else impact it is, and what do they need to do and why do they need it? It's simple, but I cannot tell you how many times it's overlooked. Okay, so then the next part of this is the messaging, what that is building the funnel, right? So the third part to this is looking at how do we build a funnel, right? The first part we've talked about is the who, okay? The where is your traffic sources and audience channels. That's where your audience hangs out. And you need to do some work to be able to really figure that out. And there, as I said, slice and dissect the way that you do. And then the third part is having some bait, right? That's that lead magnet that I talked about, and then getting the results by developing a funnel that helps you to be able to convert those people into clients, right? But the key things that you need to have is what are you selling, to whom, What's your chosen traffic source? So these are the three things that you must know when you're going to market with a funnel. The next thing you need to know is your compelling message, and that's the pain and result kind of thing, and fitting into that. How are you going to hook them? So what is your initial hook, right? And what action do you want them to take next? It's really that simple, right? These are really the main things that you need to do, right? So we're going to take a few minutes and we're going to try and build out a napkin sketch exercise in terms of what these elements are and put them together for your different businesses. So again, the first step again is that we're attracting, we're hooking them in. We're not going to talk too much about this phase in terms of nurturing at this point in time, but we're building the sales page and then whatever it is that you would do to deliver to them once they've purchased is what we're building into the funnel. For those of you who have many funnels or those of you who are larger businesses have multiple funnels and they have multiple steps for funnels. But if you're just getting started or if you're just pivoting to a new offering, this three-step process that I just showed you is enough. But I don't want to leave you with the impression that all funnels are just simple three-step funnels. There are multiple steps and stages that can be mapped out and worked on with regards to building funnels, but usually it's a layering process, and what we're doing right now is a process to start. So again, the basic formula, if you want to distill it, is the hook, right? That is something that grabs your audience, right, and takes them, and again, it's related to your product, it grabs the audience, and so you are immediately filtering out people who would be potentially interested in buying your product. And that's a big part of the purpose here, right? The next part is the story, and that's what you tell them, right? So it can be your messaging on your sales page. You may tell a story that compels people to buy it, and stories can be very compelling. We spent an entire module in the early stages of the Ignite looking at story, and we look at it from two different perspectives, from the perspective of ourselves or our brand as a persona, and we also look at it from the perspective of the story we're telling people in terms of the result that they will buy. And it's very easy to construct a story. The point is you need to have something that's compelling enough to your audience but also creates the trust with you and your brand. And then the last part of that is your offers. So your offer is compelling, as we talked about, and we move forward with regards to that, right? So there can be multiple hooks, multiple stories for every different offer, and they can be multiple offers for every different story. And that's where you start to have different funnels that layer into each other, and you have upsells and you have downsells, and you start to build out the way to be able to maximize the revenue from your customer base. We don't have enough time to go into that in too much detail, but we want to be able to at least get to a point where we can build this little online process. So the first step, and I'm going to have you guys go through this, and as I said, all of the slides and all of the workbook and all of this material is there in the workbook for those of you who need it. The first step is we're going to not talk so much about traffic today because that's very unique to each of yours individual market. But let's talk about this lead capture thing. So what is your hook, right? What are you going to be doing to be able to to be able to attract customers? Some of you may already have a lead magnet. So it's about revisiting that, or potentially it still works, right? Then what's your compelling offer? What do you want them to do next? And then the third stage of that is either it could be an upsell or it could be just as simple as thanking them and delivering that offer, right? So let me give you some examples of some lead magnets, right? Don't take the breakdown in these different stages too seriously, because we do see different types of lead magnets at different stages, but you might want to think about who you're attracting and where they might be. Are they people who already know that they have a need for this service? If so, you might be wanting to offer them information about the service, maybe a white paper, maybe some information, or a podcast or a video or various types of things. If they're in that early stage, though, if you're still trying to build client awareness to a potential set of customers, then you might be doing something like an e-guide or an e-book or a magazine. So, for instance, one of my first funnels was I had written a book on 8 strategies for immediately generating revenue in businesses, and that's available if any of you want to download it, kind of thing. It was a pretty simple 3-step process where I attracted people with the book because people who wanted strategies to grow their business, 8 strategies to grow revenue, are my target audience, right? Because that's what I help people do, right? So it has to be related to what you do, and you want to be able to make it be something that you can deliver electronically because it just makes things easier. I mean, if I do have customers and I do have clients that do offer kind of welcome packs and various types of other print material type products. But in this early lead generation space, the cheapest and easiest way to do this is to deliver something electronically, like a white paper, like an e-guide, like a book. Does anyone here have any lead magnets that they're currently using? Anyone already using this kind of lead magnet technique? Okay, not yet. Good, then this is relevant. Okay. Webinars, yes, yes. Okay, and webinars are pretty good in terms of attracting lead magnets. Attracting the right kinds of customers, because if someone's going to invest their time to spend in a call with you and to hear what you have to say, they're probably interested. Ebooks, white papers, etc. Right. So, a couple of things to be aware of for those of you who are just getting started in this process. Right. Yep. Right. It is a teaser. It's really a way to get people into the material, but it's also a way for us to kind of grab the right set of buyers, which immediately starts to, from our audience, it starts to funnel out people who are interested in our line of work. But particularly if we have the right kind of, way of attracting them, which could be an ad, it could be, conversations, it could be a variety of different things. Key things with lead magnets, though, is make sure it's useful, right? A lot of mistakes. So there's a site called Blog and Hustle, and they put out this thing called of common lead magnet mistakes, and this is kind of extracted from that. A lot of them have no underlying strategy. They're bad design, they don't look good, they're not useful, they have terrible titles, they're not what was promised. That's another thing. If you're telling somebody you're going to give them the 5 solutions for something or things like that, then give them what you say you're going to give them. Format, sometimes you need to think about that. Or they're just trying to solve too many problems, or they're pitching too many products. It really, really needs to be grounded in giving people value and very tied to your upsell offer. Make sense? Great. Okay, let's have some fun. Let's go ahead and try and map this out for ourselves. So for those of you who are using the workbook, this is, I believe, oh, I forgot to double check on the latest workbook. It's around page 13, I believe, of the workbook. There's a one-pager there, and there's also individual links in the community where you can download this as a one-page template. But I want you to just kind of write down, if you were building a funnel, so you've looked at your market, you've thought about how it's changed, right? What is your lead magnet? And so, James, if you've already got one, a couple people said that they already had some ebooks and white papers, right? Maybe it's still the same one. Maybe it just needs to be adapted. So think about how you're going to be able to, what is it that you would want to put in as a lead magnet or to attract your customers? And then what is the next thing you want them to do? So what is your main offer that you're going to be selling them at this point in time? If you want, you could also, that's your paid product, you could also think about any upsell offers you may have or any downsell offers as you're brainstorming here. And then what's the next action? Because this is what you would be simply building. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm going to give you all just a few minutes to be able to, for you to be able to map this out for yourselves. How's everyone doing? So an example, just for those of you who might need an example, for those of you, one of the early ones that I did was that as I said, I did I offered my ebook as a way for people, and what I was selling is consulting in growing revenue for businesses, and so what I offered them was a 45-minute session with me. So initially, people got the book, and then they went on to be able to be offered a 45-minute session with me to be able to go through some of the key areas of revenue generation, and the next step was booking onto my calendar. So that was one of my simple first 3-step funnels, kind of thing, and I don't have a diagram of it handy right now, but that's great. So Hucklight free track to help them with working from home. Okay, that's great. And then taking them on to e-coaching session to accelerate the learning. Perfect. Right. Is there any upsell? Anyone else want to share any? Anyone else want to share their 3-step funnel? Do you need more time? Let me know how we're at. Okay, so let's move on. So as I said, that this exercise is mapped out. There's a little fillable form in the workbook, and there's the individual ones in our Build Business Results community that you're welcome to grab in the file section to be able to download those, and we can send you the links if you need to. So the next step, now that you've mapped this out, so again, you've thought through who your audience is, you understand how you want to target them, these are the things you need to do. You want to be able to, then you now know what you want to do with them, and you need to do a little bit of deeper thinking. But you know, in a 1 hour or just a little over a 90-minute webinar, it's hard to be able to go deep into this. But so let me give you the process that you should go through as you start to build this, right? Step one is the positioning, right? So that's going deep into your target audience, but it's also going deep into who you're positioning, your market dominating positioning, whether you need to be doing any kind of pivoting in terms of that positioning. And that's really, really an important step. As I said, in the Ignite program, we spend one whole session. Each one of these is actually one of the modules that we have in the Ignite set program. But these are the steps that you need to go through regardless of how you go about doing it, right? The next thing is the message, is looking at the messaging. So this is stuff we've talked a little bit about, but going a little bit deeper into who your brand story is, your of your brand or your set in that market space. And it's important that you be able to do that. And what happens here is you end up building a lot of your foundational marketing. I've seen a lot of people take some of this stuff and take it and put it into the about sections or readapt the about sections on their webpage, because it starts to get them to be thinking about showing it through the form of a story, which really resonates with your audience set. And helps to start build some trust. The third step is a little bit of what we've touched on today, which is actually mapping that prospect capture process and getting deep into that process in terms of what we want to do. And it can be very simple and it can be more complicated depending on the types of products you do. But mapping out what your funnel process should be is a big part of it. And then understanding the sort of the nuances, and it's not hard, but in terms of headlines, subheadlines, and how you're designing your sales and landing pages, right? I talked a little bit about the nurturing sequence that you need to do with regards to nurturing your clients. Usually that's an email sequence, and that does require a little bit of the tech type stuff, but it doesn't have to be difficult, right? It doesn't have to be difficult. There's a few key elements that you need to have in play. So we do take a little bit of a look at traffic, automation, landing pages, design, that kind of thing, which is important to put in place, because this program is intended to have you build it as you go through the 8 weeks of the program. And then you want to be able to understand your value ladder and your product stacking. And this is something I haven't really talked too much about today, but it's key to be able to generating more revenue and be able to enhance your revenue set. So a large part of the reason that a lot of consultants especially end up in this sort of time for money conundrum, where we're trading off an hour of our time for X number of dollars, is because we don't have what we call a value ladder, and we haven't built in a stack into our product type. So we end up competing apples for apples and oranges for oranges, when really we're delivering something very different to our clients. We do provide value, and there is a unique part to ourselves, and whatever it is that you do, you need to know that you're doing it differently from your competitors, and your clients and your prospects need to know that, and they need to be able to see the value. And so some of this is about developing that, and some of this is about communicating that. Conversion copywriting, it doesn't have to be difficult, but there is a little bit of a process, what we call the conversion equation, which really kind of goes through kind of capturing the audience's intention. So it's, you know, you're basically, you're interrupting by catching their attention. You're interrupting their mindset from everybody else. We're engaging them, which can often just be the result that we're trying to give them, kind of thing. And then we're going into a process of educating them, and we can apply this in multiple areas, in our emails, in the overall structure of the email sequence, as well as in our landing page design. So it's a good framework for us to be able to design and write up our pages, which is what we do at this stage of the program. At the next stage of the program, we're actually designing and developing emails that communicate communicate. So it's taking those people down that buyer's journey that we talked about, from the stage of awareness to a stage of sale, and then potentially beyond. But in this, what we do is we actually design and develop the emails that can be configured into your automation product. And with regards to that, and then pulling it all together. So understanding that if we are going to be doing a funnel where we're putting money in, there's a cost of acquisition for our clients that we need to be thinking about, and then money out. So it's about looking at the key figures that you need to look at, a common one being the value of each customer during the lifetime of their customer, but also kind of, what is the cost of getting a customer versus the cost of and this is how we're making money in a funnel, right? We bring customers in for a cost if we're paying for the marketing. If we're doing it organically, there's slightly different strategies. But if we're doing something like paid advertising, then we're bringing customers in for a cost. And obviously, how well we structure the funnel, and particularly how well we're able to convert with the funnel, is going to help us develop how much we get at the end of it, because that's our whole conversion ratio right there. So we look at ways to be able to put that, and also just kind of put in some foundations for an overall digital marketing type plan that will take this forward. And that, because obviously this is just a starting place to be able to go through this thought process and to be able to develop it in a way that makes sense for customers, particularly now, right? So we do have a new set of the Ignite programs coming up. We've got two sets. We've got one coming up Friday mornings, starting on the 30th of October in Singapore. It's Singapore timing. It'll be 9 a.m. Friday mornings for 8 weeks, going through till December 17th. And we structured that because we want people to be able to take the time to be able to go through the 8-week process, to be able to develop their funnels with my support, and with the rest of the members of their cohort, to be able to develop what they need and be ready for 2021. So that's part of the reason for the timing of this, to get things included. What's included is hands-on modules, so it's sessions like this, but they're done in meeting format, and they're a lot more interactive. And they're 2-hour sessions once a week for 8 weeks. There'll be playbooks and worksheets for every single module that takes you through the steps that you need to work through, that will also help you build the marketing foundation beyond just the one funnel. And then there's tips, there's and advice in the Facebook community. There's a private session that really helps you to kind of work through and hone through some of your unique positioning with regards to that. And then you get 1 year of access to our business accelerator, which has a variety of different tools, and you won't need during the program, because the program's all inclusive, but you will potentially want that as you move forward. And that's an online repository. There's hours and hours of training and materials and worksheets in there. There's a self-diagnostic that you can use for your own business, to be able to rate where you are in different elements of the what we call the 5-step model, which is generating leads, converting, establishing more transactions, building profitability. So it's all organized according to this 5-step growth model that we have. And there's a 52-week training series, and there's things in there like lead magnets, drip campaigns, that you can literally take and adapt to your own market space, and you can just download them. So it's a useful tool to have, and you get that as part of the program as well. For 1 year, you get 1 year membership with regards to that particular program. And because we love Huglai and AIM and everyone in the mentoring community, we're offering for the next couple of weeks a special 30% off for anyone who's on this call and anyone who's part of the AIM community. All you need to do is go to buildbusinessresults.com/ignite. There's some material there. There's a couple of there's a couple of videos. There's some here directly from past participants video there, so it might be worth checking out. There's a little bit more on what's covered in each of the modules. And the code that you would need to use, valid till October 22nd for the 30% price reduction, is AIM. and that's all set and ready for you to go ahead and do it. We're minimizing the number of registrants, so we're trying to leave it at 10 registrants per cohort, and there's 2. I'm assuming most of you are morning people, but for those, since we're doing an evening call right now, there is also an evening option that you are all welcome to use that code for as well. And Avni, you actually attended this program, so maybe you can say a few words to close out on that.
Sure. Yeah, thank you very much, Raksha, for taking us through this. Basically, I attended Ignite with a number of people, and every single person who attended and they applied, even a small portion of it, said they had huge benefits. Because like they say, that it's one thing knowing what to do, it's another thing doing what you know. So Raksha tells you what you need to know, and then she handholds you. It's a practical workshop. So actually the best value for me, Raksha, came from actually doing it, actually putting the things into practice. Yeah, I really liked it. And that's why I like the fact that I like the format, that it's over 8 weeks. And even in between sessions, you are really there to help us, to really make sure that we do our homework and we carry things through. So I felt that it's really been a great benefit. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, the purpose of the program really is to help you to be able to develop one particular funnel for that one minimal buy. So for those of you that have a variety of different types of products, it's choose your most important, your ground product, and who is your minimal viable audience, and build something that attracts that. Right? So it's not intended to help you build your whole website, although a lot of people get that benefit because a lot of what we create goes deep to their core in terms of their business. The brand story that we create ends up becoming, as I said, it becomes a part of a video. In module 2, we actually create videos so that we all have something we can use moving forward for our website. So it's meant to be practical. It's meant to be useful. And if anyone wants to hear any more about that, I actually have a workshop. Unfortunately, it's a bit late for you folks. I'm doing it for in the United States time zone. It's at midnight for you folks, but we can make the recording available to you, and it will be on our website and available as well for people to get through, which just talks you a little bit through those 8 steps in a little bit more detail. But again, the program is really what it is if you want to go through it in the real detail and actually roll up your sleeves and start to create. I'm available if anyone just wants to chat, to talk about the relevance and what they could be building in this program. I want to make sure that we get the program. And there's also an option available for people who want to go through that in a one-on-one format. Unfortunately, we can only take on an additional 3 people in that capacity to be able to do that on one-on-one with me. And it basically takes you through that process in a slightly accelerated way. But the program's fun, right? We had a lot of fun, didn't we, Avni?
Sorry, I'm on mute. Yes, we had fun. It was great. Really good camaraderie. In fact, everyone supported everyone. We all became friends. Everyone got to know each other. It was good. Yes, thank you.
Community in the building.
Yes.
What I like to do is I like to try and bring business owners to support each other into the community, and that's what I'm striving to build with the Build Business Results community. And I'm always open to connections. So here's my contact details. If you want to have a chat, I have an ability to have a 15-minute meeting with you so that we can have a private meeting. There's a link to be able to book that meeting, and that gets directly onto my calendar. I'm on LinkedIn, so please do, go ahead and, book a, please do go ahead and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you all and connect with you all and stay in touch. And I want to thank you again, Hoklai, Avni, you for all the wonderful comments and for being here today. I know that a lot of this is not new to you, and Hoklai, I hope this has been of value to you.
Thank you, Raksha. Definitely. And I thank everyone who have stayed on. I know it's late for some of us. So thank a lot, Raksha, a lot to have learned, and I'm sure the program will give us even a lot more. So I'd like to take a few minutes, if I could share my screen. Raksha, can you give me back the sharing, if you could stop sharing?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if I could share my screen. So I just a couple of minutes left. I'd like to ask if you could help us with a short survey. It's on the left of the screen, a QR code to tell us what you think of today's webinar. And also on the right is a link to our AIM volunteer webpage. So really appreciate if you could find some time and help us with what we are doing. It's a good cause. The link and the recording of today's session will be sent to you, and as much of the details provided from Raksha to how to connect with her and her program will also be included in our EDM to you. So this is the coming sessions that we have on this Saturday, is to coincide with the World Mental Health Day, and is on the future of mental well-being. So please, if you can and have the time and have the interest, please sign up. So just to wrap up today, I want to give a huge thank you to Raksha, for Ethne, for coming on, staying on and giving us this time. And most of all to our partner. Yes, these are all our coalition partner, without which this would not have been possible. And to all of you who have joined us and stayed until now, which is late, and I hope you have benefited from it as much as I have. So thank you very much. We'll sign off from now, and I hope to see you in our next event. And thank you, Raksha and Ethne, again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For now.